Welcome to Xiao Voice. Continuing from the previous episode 220. Xiao Yan's hand seal was choppy and slow. He appeared like someone who had just learned it. While his hand seals were being formed, the majestic spiritual strength that permeated around him was swiftly gathered. An invisible spiritual palm print vaguely formed around his palm. However, this palm print being formed was a little illusionary when compared to Xiao Ying's. Xiao Ying's eyes were shocked as she stared at the hand seal, which Xiao Yan was unfamiliar with. It was as though a great storm was churning in her heart. She had never expected Xiao Yan to remember all of her hand seals in his mind within this short instant. Of course, the thing that caused her to feel the greatest disbelief was that Xiao Yan had not only memorized the changing hand seals, but he was also able to use them after just seeing them. When Xiao Ying had come into contact with this soul skill for the first time, she had practiced it for a long while before she was able to gradually understand the combination method between the spiritual strength and the finger seals. However, at this moment, Xiao Yan was able to do this after a short few minutes. This kind of thing, even she, who was said to possess demonic talent, could not help but feel shocked. Of course, this did not mean that Xiao Yan's talent far exceeded that of Xiao Ying's talent. After all, his spiritual strength had already been displayed until the pinnacle during these years of training. This spiritual handprint that Xiao Ying had displayed was not a very high-class soul skill. Hence, Xiao Yan being able to fiddle around and grasp some of its tricks was not something difficult to understand. Xiao Yan had already established an incomparably firm foundation for basic things. As long as he was given some opportunity, the difficulty he would experience while mastering a soul skill would be many times easier than that of an ordinary person. These things were all things that Xiao Ying was unaware of. It was due to this that she still felt incomparably shocked upon seeing this scene. The huge spiritual storm quickly became larger in Xiao Yan's eyes. As the spiritual pressure neared, Xiao Yan's quick and choppy hand motions became more smooth and the changes in his finger started to seem like he was almost done. Xiao Yan's eyes were staring firmly at the spiritual storm that was rushing over. An instant later, his changing hand seals suddenly paused. A low, deep cry erupted from his throat. Ha! The cry was just like thunder. After which, his mysterious palm print was heavily pushed forward. The sharp sound of whistling wind suddenly resonated within the large hall after the palm was pushed out. That invisible palm imprint carried some permeating spiritual strength as it collided with that spiritual storm in front of the anxious eyes within the large hall. Bang! The two collided and a low, deep explosion immediately resounded over the interior of the large hall. The souls of quite a number of people emitted a piercing pain at this moment. Crash! Invisible spiritual ripples swept out from the point of collision and spread over the stone floor of the arena. At this moment, the floor was completely shattered into a cluster of powder. Dust flew in all directions, causing the visibility of the large hall to be significantly reduced. The raging spiritual storm continued for nearly 1 minute or so before it slowly disappeared. At this moment, those miserable human figures were finally able to stand up. After which, numerous eyes instantly turned to the arena that had been destroyed and was completely different now. Dust gradually settled on the arena. The scene within was absorbed by the eyes of everyone in the hall. Xiao Yan was seated on a rock platform that was less than 1 meter in radius. There were a couple of bottomless holes in front of him. At this moment, his sleeves were completely tattered. His appearance was a little miserable. The area within a 30-foot radius around Xiao Ying, who was in front of Xiao Yan, was fine. Even the clothes on her body still appeared clean. However, the current her revealed a solemn expression. Her eyes were unblinking as she stared at Xiao Yan across from her. From the appearance of the two, it was obvious that Xiao Yan was at a disadvantage. Elder Cheng, who had already withdrew into the distance, finally sighed in relief after seeing that the fight between the two of them had come to an end. After which, he drifted over. His eyes looked all around him as he involuntarily shook his head with a bitter smile. These two people were really destructive maniacs. 3 palms are up. You have won. Xiao Ying gently sighed. She elegantly stood up and softly informed him. Xiao Yan slightly smiled when he heard her words. He stood up, coincidentally revealing the red line behind him. He had received all of her 3 palms and was not sent out of the red circle. According to the rules, he had won this match. Xiao Ying's words had just sounded when the interior of the large hall immediately became much quieter. The expressions of those members of the Xiao clan had become a lot stiffer. They had never expected Xiao Ying to lose. This bastard is really lucky. Xiao Dan's face was green as he softly cursed. Xiao Yan is not an ordinary person. Other than Xiao Ying, none of the members of the younger generation within the Xiao clan could contend with him. Xiao Shu faintly continued, "This is only the initial exchange. If they meet during the pill gathering, Xiao Yan might not be able to beat Xiao Ying." Xiao Dan's expression became uglier upon hearing Xiao Shu's words. He had once exchanged blows with Xiao Yan. Back then, Xiao Yan might have been very strong, but he had definitely not reached this current level. Clearly, during these short few months, the other party was swiftly improving. However, this improvement speed was really a little too shocking. The silence within the interior of the large hall continued for a moment before it was broken by waves of soft, surprised gasps. It was the first time that they had seen Xiao Ying admitting defeat in front of someone from the same generation during all these years. The name Xiao Ying was really too well known within the Pill region, the title of which contained a reputation under her fierce and incomparable ability. It was indeed very difficult to find someone from the same generation who was comparable to her. Yi Zhang and Xin Lan in the Yi clan's seats revealed faces that were filled with shock and excitement because Xiao Yan's result. Xiao Yan had submitted a perfect answer sheet during this test that caused even them to feel disbelief. First in all 3 sections. This result was likely something that the Yi clan had only obtained during its peak. The Yi clan is saved. The little fairy doctor and Tianhuo Zunjie also smiled after seeing the excitement-filled faces of those two. Her pretty eyes immediately slid to the skinny back in the arena. He had never disappointed anyone from the start. No matter who his opponent was, he never lost his confidence. It was this kind of confidence, filled with vitality, that enabled Xiao Yan to be filled with an exceptionally alluring charm. A person must ultimately believe in oneself in order to obtain true success. "Miss Xiao Ying, thank you for going easy on me. If you were to really attack with another palm, I might no longer possess the ability to receive it." Xiao Yan randomly tore off the tattered parts of his sleeves in the arena. After which, he cupped his hands to Xiao Ying and laughed in a clear voice. "You are thinking of secretly learning this spiritual handprint of mine, right?" Xiao Ying spoke in a half-smiling manner while she lifted her pretty eyes after seeing Xiao Yan's free and easygoing manner. Xiao Yan was involuntarily a little embarrassed upon hearing Xiao Ying's straightforward. This spiritual handprint was not very difficult to learn. It was likely not a very high-class soul skill. However, for him, who had never practiced a soul skill, it was undoubtedly a rare treasure one would have a difficult time finding even if one had a vast amount of gold. Xiao Ying covered her mouth and laughed when she saw Xiao Yan's embarrassment. She gently shifted her footsteps and walked to his side. Her watery eyes stared at Xiao Yan's face as she cunningly laughed. "If Mr. Xiao Yan has the time, we might perhaps be able to privately have an exchange. I also know some other soul skills. It will depend on whether you have the ability to secretly learn them." A faint fragrance came flying over. Xiao Yan looked at the bewitching face that was within close proximity. A ripple rose within his heart along with some caution. His face was expressionless as he smiled and said, "If I have the time, I will definitely find Miss Xiao Ying to spar." Although he had luckily won this fight, Xiao Yan understood that this was a warm-up for a witch like Xiao Ying. After this exchange, Xiao Yan clearly understood that this witch from the Xiao clan was indeed not an ordinary person. She definitely possessed the ability to fight for the top 3 spots during this pill gathering. This was because Xiao Yan could sense that Xiao Ying had never truly used all her strength since the beginning. This time around, he relied a little on his luck in order to secretly learn the spiritual handprint Xiao Ying had displayed. Moreover, Xiao Ying would naturally not share all of the soul skills she practiced with him as she had said. With what happened this time around, she would definitely prevent such a thing from happening again when she sparred with Xiao Yan in the future. Therefore, Xiao Yan could just imagine attempting to secretly learn those soul skills. Based on Xiao Yan's guesses, this witch was likely a little displeased at having suffered a small loss this time around. Therefore, she wanted to find a chance to get back at him. Xiao Ying was unconcerned when she saw Xiao Yan's vague reply. After this contact, she had gained a simple understanding of Xiao Yan's character that completely ignored what others said. She understood that the person in front of her would not easily fall for her beauty like the other men. However, everything must be like this in order to be somewhat challenging, no? The pill gathering is about to begin. Hopefully, I will be able to meet you there. I know, earlier, you also held back. Xiao Ying's pretty eyes meaningfully studied Xiao Yan. After which, the corner of her mouth was lifted into an arc that was filled with temptation. She immediately turned around and walked out of the large hall, leaving Xiao Yan with the sight of a lazy yet haughty figure. Xiao Yan looked at that figure and gently sighed. This woman was not easy to deal with.